She wasn't loud. She didn't push back. She didn't raise her voice once. And yet, by the time that flight landed, she had changed every single person on it. Because sometimes, the quietest person in the room has fought the loudest battles. Asterisk, ma'am, you're in the wrong seat. Coach is in the back. The businessman's voice cut sharp through the cabin, like he was announcing a crime. He held up his first-class ticket like it was a badge of honor, waving it at the woman in the aisle, set to expecting her to shrink. But she didn't. She just sat there, hands folded, eyes on the window. Not a flinch, not a word. She wore a stiff, green military uniform, brass buttons polished, slacks perfectly creased. Her name tag read Lieutenant Ramirez. But to him too, the flight attendant now stepping in, she was just a problem to solve. Miss, the attendant said, her tone clipped with fake politeness. If you don't comply, we'll have to remove you. Other passengers leaned in, some curious, some clearly annoyed. A woman across the aisle mumbled, "These people always try to sneak up here." Still, Ramirez didn't move. She reached slowly into her breast pocket and handed over a neatly folded boarding pass. Seat 3A. First class. Just like theirs, only without the entitlement. But her silence irritated them more than if she'd argued. She was too calm, too composed. She didn't look like someone who belonged up there. And then, a voice from the front of the plane. Strong, clear. "What's the delay up here?" The pilot had stepped out of the cockpit. Tall, gray-haired. The kind of presence that made everyone straighten up. He took one look at the scene, then looked at Ramirez. And in a flash, he saw what no one else had. Her insignia, her posture, her presence. He didn't need to ask her name. He snapped to attention and saluted. Crisp, unmistakable Lieutenant Ramirez, he said, voice steady. "Welcome aboard. This seat is yours. On behalf of this airline and, as a fellow officer, you for your service." The cabin froze. The businessman stumbled back, suddenly sheepish. Lips parted, but no words came. The flight attendant took a slow step away. The woman across the aisle looked down at her shoes, cheeks flushed with shame. Ramirez nodded once. "Thank you, Captain." And that's when the truth hit them. Those weren't just shiny medals on her chest. They were earned. Through blood. Through pain. Through moments no one in that cabin had ever had to face. What they didn't know, what they couldn't have known, was that just 9 months earlier, Ramirez had carried her wounded sergeant 5 miles under enemy fire. Afghanistan. She'd used her own belt to stop the bleeding in his leg. When the medevac finally arrived, she was drenched in blood, most of it not her own. Her silence wasn't weakness. It was discipline. Her stillness. Control. The kind that only comes from surviving too much, too young. She didn't book first class for luxury. She was gifted that seat by a veteran support group. After months of surgeries, her spine fused in 3 places. Her knee rebuilt. Coach wasn't an option. It was pain. But none of that mattered to the people who judged her at first glance. Until that salute. That single gesture shifted the air in the cabin. Conversation faded. Eyes dropped. And slowly, awkwardly, people began to see her. A man, 2 rows back, whispered thank you. A woman reached across the aisle, tears in her eyes, and gently touched her hand. The pilot didn't move. He stood tall and addressed the whole cabin. "We don't judge heroes by their rank, their voice, or their seat number. We judge them by their sacrifice." Then he turned and walked back to the cockpit. The flight took off 5 minutes late. Not a single complaint. No one disturbed her after that. A flight attendant brought her a warm blanket. No words. Another offered a drink, hands trembling with guilt. And when they landed, the passengers clapped. Not for the landing, but for her. Lieutenant Ramirez stood slowly, steadying herself with the seat in front of her. She didn't smile, didn't speak, but when she walked down that aisle, the cabin parted like the Red Sea. Some saluted, others just bowed their heads. Even the businessman, the one who'd tried to shame her, stepped aside, face flushed. "I'm sorry," he whispered. She looked him straight in the eyes and said quietly, "Next time, don't assume the quiet ones haven't fought the loudest battles." And with nothing but a small carry-on bag and a dignity you can't teach, she stepped off that plane, leaving behind a flight full of people who would never look at silence the same way again.